Chukwuego, mewere kema babongo. Amam Chukwuego, esi owi owi.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Eni mele yengebe.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Ndasuni beji ke onasu.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Ndaba moteji ke onawaye.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Abanti no teju na money.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Eni mele yengebe.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Damoni bigi mo fori.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Bigi mo fori shadow komia.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Oraye mbarele yengebe.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Obio.
Amam Chukwuego da. Were kebe je fusa. Amam Chukwuego da. Amam Chukwuego da. Were kema babongo. Amam Chukwuego da.
Eni malak malako.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Eni mele yengebe.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Ndasuni beji ke onasu.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Damoni bigi mo fori.
Amam Chukwuego da.
Hello, everybody. Once again, this is Fred Wankwa coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on LNTV. As usual, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on where you are around the world. Folks, remember that when this all started and the Tinubu forces were kind of walking around with their chests pumped out, and their ace in the hole was that, oh, America has congratulated Tinubu. America is working with Tinubu to help recreate this gigantic economy in Nigeria. And he was in a hurry to try and rush into Niger because he thought it would give him more recognition by America. And even me was concerned that it's not the America that I live in and the America that I know. Well, America is now gradually taking a position. And before I get into my own discussion on this matter, let me play you about a 5-minute segment that I caught segments of so that I could just capsulize it. It's a very, very respected American journalist, not all these fly-by-night. Listen to what he's saying, and if he's saying it with that much conviction, there are people he's talking to in State Department and high places in America, and he's more or less indirectly giving you an idea where America stands on Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Just
Now, in September, the FBI said it would start releasing 500 documents, or 500 pages a month of its documents on Tinubu, out of 2,500 total pages of material that they have on him. The CIA, the State Department, the IRS, the Drug Enforcement Agency have also got a mass of data about Bola Tinubu's activities in the United States, and they too are preparing to release all this information. And what it's starting to show is that Bola Tinubu has used many aliases along his career, including to gain an education or to gain claims of education, and he basically put pressure on Chicago State University not to release the transcriptions of anything to do with him, because they show that he used different names, that he used several different social security numbers in the United States, some of which were clearly borrowed or fraudulent. He clearly forged a number of documents. He borrowed another person's identity to file studies which were required educationally. So he's done a number of things, but he particularly was prosecuted in Chicago in the 1990s for narcotics trafficking. And he basically pleaded no contest to that and escaped with a forfeiture of $460,000 rather than go to prison. So there's a lot which is coming out about him. It's to the point now where if the Supreme Court does not overturn this election, then there will be serious consequences. I've had it, and that's one of the reasons I'm in London speaking to a lot of my African correspondents who've come up to meet me, is that there will be consequences such as a move to impeach President Tinubu, starting either in the Senate or in the House of Representatives in Nigeria. But certainly there's cooperation among House and Senate people, politicians there, to start not only a impeachment of the president to overturn the election, but also to start censuring or impeaching the Supreme Court if it fails to do its duty, and also, of course, to start prosecuting officials within INEC, the Independent National Election Commission, as well. So this starts to get very, very ugly. The military has basically said, well, we don't want to be back in government ever again. It's just too damaging to the country to restart the clock every time. But what you will see is an increase in public unrest. You'll see the government being unable to coordinate any compromises with its neighbours in ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, in the fight against the jihadist movements such as Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa and the like. So this is going to get really ugly really quickly and will further impact the Nigerian economy unless the Supreme Court does its duty.
Listen, sadly, instead of addressing the legitimate, identifiable garbage in Bola Ahmed Tinubu's entire being from childhood till today, which is very embarrassing to anybody who is objective and fair-minded. What you hear from Tinubu supporters is, oh, something just came out on Atiku. He too forged when he went to high school. In one document, it said Sadiq, S-A-D-I-Q. In another document, it said Sadiq, S-A-D-I-C-K. Garbage. Atiku is not president of Nigeria. Atiku didn't steal the presidency of Nigeria. We're dealing with Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let's face who we're dealing with. He's an embarrassment to the entire continent of Africa. The US has stepped up its game. When Bola Ahmed Tinubu took office, his propaganda was all over the place, as if the US was putting out red carpet for him to come and negotiate these wonderful deals with Nigeria. Obviously, we can see that the agencies in the United States are starting to put their documents together on Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The FBI is going to be releasing 2,500 files, 500 files per month until they are done. We don't know what's in those files, but we know they are going to be very damaging to Bola Ahmed Tinubu. IRS is going to be putting out their own documents. And we know whatever they are putting out is going to be damaging to Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The Drug Enforcement Administration, which are the people who deal with his drug dealing issues, are going to be putting out documents and all the things they have on him. And on a local Chicago basis, the birds haven't started singing at Chicago State University. You know, somebody went into the back offices at Chicago State University in 1977 to cook the documents that Bola Ahmed Tinubu entered school with. Chances are that person is retired, maybe dead, But that's fine. That person transferred information to some people that are still at Chicago State University today. When the FBI comes close to those people, they are going to start singing. So locally in Chicago, we're still waiting to see how many heads are going to roll at Chicago State University. And when those heads at Chicago State University start to roll, we never know how many local Chicago politicians, likely black Chicago politicians in Chicago, are going to be implicated, that who may have used their clout to influence the people at Chicago State University to do what they did. Because you guys think this guy is spreading his money in Nigeria in bullion trucks. He has really, his billions of dollars have really given him impetus. He's starting to feel invincible, that he could come to a country where the law works. The law may fail temporarily, but when they recalibrate, they're going to come back and go 15, 20, 30 years to the source. There are some Nigerians who live in Chicago who may be the ones who were influencing the politicians, who were influencing the administrators at Chicago State University. Birds are gonna sing. Like they say in the streets of America, you ain't seen nothing yet. We just have to kick back and relax and watch where this whole thing is going. In other words, right now, I'm not even sure your president can come to the United States without peeing on his pants during the flight, wondering, am I going to go back to Nigeria on schedule, or am I going to be arrested and put in jail? Is that who we want to be our president? Which international meeting can Bola Ahmed Tinubu attend to represent Nigeria and have the leaders? Because no leader wants to deal with a drug dealer. No leader wants to deal with a certificate forger. No leader wants to deal with a man with so much baggage on him. If the Supreme Court plays games and comes up with a typical thing we expect, which is take bribe, buy mansions overseas, and sell Nigeria to Tinubu, as things stand right now, the man we call president is running around not knowing what's in the files that FBI is releasing, but what's known so far is that there are a lot of forged documents they found on him, about him. There's borrowed identity that he used when he was here. All these are crimes in America. There are a lot of aliases that he functioned under, and some crimes may have been committed under those aliases. And knowing his style, you can almost guarantee that crimes were committed under those aliases. Then there's the obvious $460,000 forfeiture to avoid jail time, payback from his drug proceeds. All these things are there. In the face of all that evidence, if the Supreme Court decides to play games and come up with some kind of hogwash decision on Bola Ahmed Tinubu to legitimize an illegitimate president, God knows Nigeria may not be able to handle the fallout. And these Supreme Court judges are going to be responsible for whatever fallout this brings about. And when you have a place so corrupt and there's a head honcho, right now, the two honchos that need to be addressed in Nigeria, the three of them, is President Ahmed Tinubu, the tribunal judges, the Supreme Court judges, and the chairman of INEC. All these people, if they do the wrong thing, need to be seriously investigated. To seriously investigate them, Nigeria needs the legislative arm to do their job. Even though we know that there are all kinds of crooks in the leadership of the legislative arm, but this is where deals are made to get to the main source of the corruption. So this may be the time for Nigerians to make deals with head people in the Senate and House of Reps to say, listen, your crimes could land you in jail for 20 years. But we're willing to take away the jail time, have you pay some fines, but we need real investigations to start on Bola Ahmed Tinubu and all these documents that are coming out on him, not to mention his forged place of birth, date of birth, secondary schools, primary schools, and all those things he forged. It's time to investigate INEC and how they conducted this election. And it's time to investigate the tribunal court judges and this Supreme Court if they do the right thing. It's time for honest investigations in exchange for freedom of the crooks in the House and the Senate. And they signed promise that one more nonsense, you two are going to jail. And in typical Nigerian form, I know the listeners, or half of them, are saying this isn't going to work in Nigeria, this is not America. How do you start building America in Nigeria? How do you start building Singapore in Nigeria? By starting. It starts with occupying the streets of Nigeria. It starts with the youth saying enough is enough. It starts with a Nigerian spring like you had the Arab Spring. It starts with civil disobedience all over the place. It starts with workers' disobedience all over the place. When these legislators see that water don't pass Gary, they will now buckle to the pressure that's coming from who? All those people I just mentioned are nothing but the constituents of the legislators. The legislators have grown wings because there has been no accountability. You keep taking bags of rice and 5,000 naira and selling your soul. It's time to stop taking shishi and put your foot down and get your rights back. That's how it's done. It's not talking about what happens in America. It's talking about what real people do to get their country back. It's time for Nigerians and Nigeria's youth to really believe that our leaders are serious about fighting corruption in Nigeria. And if the legislators will not do their job, sadly, there's one more thing left. It's happened in 5 or 6 or 7 West African countries in the last 2 years, and especially in the last 9 months. The military may need to do what they need to do. Nobody who went through Babangida and Abacha and Buhari want to see the military rule Nigeria again. But if the civilians are not going to do the right thing, we need a transition to another election that will be fair. This Nigerian is not calling for a military coup, but this Nigerian is saying that if things are not done right, I am scared that we may be at the threshold of having those rascals in the military come back to do what they've always done when civilian crooks throw the country into chaos. And before I sign off, let me say one thing to all these Tinubu supporters who, whether it's because of tribalism or because of cronyism or because of patronage or whatever you're getting from him, it's important that you understand that supporting dirt is supporting dirt. It never leads you anywhere positive. And I'll leave you on this note. It's food for thought.
Not everybody who heaps dung on you is your enemy. Not everybody who gets you out of shit is your friend. And above all, and above all, when you're in a heap of shit, keep your mouth shut.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Fred Nwankwo, keeping it very short, coming to you from my studios in Chicago with another very serious edition of Bull Talk on LNTV. And until next time, good night and God bless.
This is a song for the new year and every day. I want you to sing it every day. It's a declaration. Búburú kan kò ní ṣubú lù mí. Àrùn kárùn kankan kò ní súnmọ́ ilé mi.